All right, welcome to another Literary Revolutionary Masterclass. This masterclass is particularly called Prepare Your Story for Print. And we're going to be discussing everything, well, not everything, but a few of the main components that you need to prepare your story for print. All right. All right, so I am Nia Sade Akinyemi. For those who are new to me, who do not know me, I'm Nia Sade Akinyemi, the literary revolutionary. I teach women of color how to revolutionize their brands by writing, publishing, and marketing powerful books with ease and confidence. I help my clients flip their manuscripts into literary masterpieces through my author coaching, consulting, and partner publishing services. Many people come to me when they have a story to tell, a skill to share, expertise to offer, and advice to give, and they want to put it in the form of a book. And I pride myself in helping my clients gain respect as authorities in their lives and in their fields through written and published text. In addition to all of that, I help not only with books, but helping authors build indisputable brands. I'm the founder of the former Black Authors Matter campaign, which ran for 9 consecutive months starting in July of last year, where we worked primarily with Black authors, helping to create, empower, and promote Black authors. I'm also the founder of Authorpreneur University, which is an online platform for stuff like this, which is me teaching you all how to become gangster entrepreneurs, is what I call it, so that you're able to navigate the literary industry as an independent. I am also a best-selling author and an award-winning activist. I have been, deeply rooted into the literary scene since the age of 15. So going on 10 years. And I think that what has me stand out from a lot of other people who are in this work is that I usually teach mainly from the mistakes that I've made. So my teaching comes from my mistakes so that you all do not make the same mistakes and you're able to navigate the industry the first time around, making it your best time. So that's a little bit about the literary revolutionary. So let's get started. When it comes to preparing your story for print, there are levels to this. That's a quote from myself. And I think it's very important to just meditate on that. When it comes to preparing your story for print, there are levels to this. So let's talk about those levels. So there's writing. Obviously, that is the most important part of getting a book printed, is actually having it written. There's self-publishing, which industry-wise is ever growing, and the skills are necessary to learn sooner than later. And then there is marketing, which, if done with uncertainty and lack of planning, can make or break your book. So we have writing, we have self-publishing or publishing, and we have marketing. I use self-publishing as the term I'm going with because my trainings, my classes, and everything that I offer to my tribe is primarily on the premise of being an independent. So being independent from what traditional publishing companies usually offer, which is why I promote self-publishing and I promote partner publishing. So I took this quote, or borrowed this quote, I would say, from my former mentor, Hotep, who is the founder of Hustle University. Hotep was the first person to give me my shot at editing a professional book, a book that was published and released to masses. So he always told me success comes when preparation meets opportunity. He's also the author of The Hustler's 10 Commandments. And this is actually one of the commandments. Success comes when preparation meets opportunity. So keep in mind that if you want to have your book successful, if you want your book to be a success when you release it, you have to be prepared when that opportunity presents itself. So, what do we mean by preparing your story for print? When I think of preparing story for print, I think of writing, I think of publishing, I think of marketing. I think of the three key components that it takes to successfully launch, release, and sell books. So you want to prepare your story by being very clear about the impact you want your writing to make. You do this by, one, identifying your message. So again, if you are on the live Masterclass feed, I hope you're taking notes because it'll be very beneficial. So you want to identify your message. Every story should have a message. Your story, your story's message needs to be clear. There needs to be a clear central takeaway for your reader. So when your reader is done reading your book, what is it that they should meditate on? That's a question you want to ask yourself. So when I think about my own story, when I think about some of my client stories and what they have produced, they always have a clear takeaway or a clear message. It could be, how to better take care of yourself. My client, Anana Paris, wrote a book called Self-Care Matters, A Revolutionary's Approach. And so she's using her story, her self-care story, as a tool to help other women and other people of color learn how to better take care of themselves. It could be how to become a teen activist, like my youngest client, Shanice, who was 15. She just published her first book in February. And so her book is called Young Revolutionary, A Teen's Guide to Activism. She talks about her own personal truths and her own story as it pertains to becoming a youth activist. And then she uses that book as a tool to teach other teenagers how to get involved in activism. Your book could be about how to deal with the loss or grieving the loss of a parent, specifically a mother or specifically a father. And this is a memoir that one of my clients, Denisha Chambers, she is a licensed therapist and grief specialist. So she wrote a book about her own experience losing her mom, what that was like for her. And she uses her expertise as a grief specialist to curate an entire book on ways to deal with losing a mom. And that book is called Turning Towards the Sun, 7 Ways My Mom Prepared Me to Live Without Her. You could write a book about, your message could be about how to love your children better. So one of my A-team members, Angelique Niare, just published her first book back in April. And her book is called The Mommy Manners Handbook. And it is a practical guide for becoming a well-behaved mom. And she talks about her experiences as a mother of 3 girls, having to make difficult decisions for her children and her family, but all in the process, making sure not to take her frustrations out on her children and how to be a better parent and mother and friend to her children in the process of being a parent. And then maybe, you could talk about, or a message could be how to stick out the highs and lows of a marriage. And I reflect on one of my clients, Miss Cynthia. She is my eldest client in her 60s. And she just published her book last month called Remembering Us. And it's a memoir of her and her husband, her late husband's love story. And essentially, she's talking about how to push past the highs and lows of marriage to see, the decades of marriage and the fruits of the labor that it took to sustain such a marriage, before he passed away. So you want to identify your message. When writing your story, you want to be clear about what your central message is. What is your takeaway? What is your reader supposed to meditate on when they leave this book or when they're finished with your book? Once they read it, what do you want them to take away? The second thing you want to do to prepare for the writing process is to know your why. You want to ask yourself, why am I writing my story? What led me to the realization that I needed to document it in book form? Who am I doing this for? And is this book going to mean something to someone? You want to be very clear. You want to have a vision for what this book is supposed to do. And you want to remain consistent in your why. Why are you writing your book? Are you writing your book because you need to just get some things off your chest and you just want to just put all of your thoughts out there into the world? Are you writing a book because you want your great-great-grandchildren to know who you were, to know the things that you did while you were on this earth? Do you want to write your book because you want to empower women around the world to do something or to be something? It could be, to be fearless, to not give up, and you can use your own personal experiences as your storylines for your particular book. You want to know your why. In my book, Write the Book, Sis, I have a section that is solely dedicated to knowing your why and remembering your why. And in that particular section of my book, I talk about my why for writing my first book and my most recent book. And so if you don't have your copy of Write the Book, Sis, you definitely want to get that. And there's actually going to be an opportunity for you to get it with a discount once this is over. So just be on the lookout for that. The third thing you want to do is plan for your book. You want to plan for it. And when I say plan for it, I mean like real strategy planning for it. You want to understand that goals are not reached if there is no concrete plan. And that's not just with books, that's with anything. Your goals, you won't reach your goals if there's no concrete plan. You want to create the framework or blueprint for your book and follow it. I use this example often because it means so much to me and I think it makes perfect sense. So I follow Courtney Sanders of thinkandgrowchick.com, and I've been following her for a while. I was listening to one of her podcast episodes and she talked about how to like really reach goals. And one of the things she said was that oftentimes we're not really making goals, we're just wishing. And the difference between goals and wishes is that a wish is just something that you just put out there and be like, oh, I hope at the end of this year I finish my book. That's just a wish because you haven't given yourself a concrete plan, deadlines, framework, or a blueprint to making it actually happen. Whereas your goal requires you to put a deadline to it. All right, so by July of 2018, I need to have my book in my hand. As a matter of fact, I want to be even more clear about when in July. So July 12th is the day that I want to have my book in my hand. And from there, you work backwards to plan for your actual book release and having it in your hand. So you want to create that framework. The way you do that is 3 steps. You want to dump your brain, because most times people get stuck in just that first aspect of writing their book. And that's just having all of these ideas in their brain that they can't seem to organize or outline because they haven't gotten it out of their brain. In order to write a book, you're going to have to write. So you might as well start practicing by writing the thoughts that are going through your mind. You want to put pen to paper, put your fingers to the keyboard, turn on your audio recorder, whatever it is that you need to do to dump your brain of all the ideas you have. That's where you want to start with your planning and preparation. You dump your brain, then you want to organize your thoughts. You can organize those thoughts by creating a vision board. You can get some note cards or some sticky notes. You can get a dry erase board and just kind of move things around, shift all of those ideas and put them in the order in which you think they should go. And then that'll eventually go into your outline. What you want to do is outline your book from the very beginning to the very end. And it can start with your introduction. It can start with chapter 1, chapter 2, up into however many chapters you plan to do, and your conclusive chapter. But you want to be able to outline your book from beginning to end, because what this does is it saves you the time, the energy, and the stress that comes with writer's block. Personally, I don't believe that writer's block is really a thing. I think that writer's block has everything to do with not being fully prepared. And by being fully prepared, I mean not having a clear-cut blueprint, which is your outline. Your outline is to show you exactly where everything is supposed to go. When you think about an architect has to design the entire layout of whatever structure they're about to build. They do not go in blind. They don't go with the materials thinking that they're just going to put something together and it's going to be called a house or a building. Architects have to create a blueprint. They get a big old, they lay out all of their work on their desk. They get their markers, their highlighters, their pens, their pencils, and they draft out what that structure is going to look like. So just the same way that architects cannot just go in blind to build, the White House, we have to have that same type of mentality when it comes to our books. You cannot go in blind, because if you go in blind, you will get stuck. You will find yourself hitting that wall where you don't know where to go next. And then because we hit that wall and are not really confident in where to go next, we find ourselves remaining stagnant. And that's where that block comes from. And that's why writer's blocks turn from a start with, a day of not knowing what to do to sitting on a book for 10 years and still haven't finished it. Because you allow yourself to succumb to this quote unquote blockage. But the blockage was really just, you didn't prepare. You didn't really plan. You didn't dump your thoughts. You didn't organize your thoughts. And you didn't create a framework for your book. So before you do anything else, even if you've already started your book, you can always go back and still plan for it. But you don't want to allow yourself to let too much time go in between. And then you mess around and you're halfway through or you're 75% through and you don't know what to do next. And then you've gotten discouraged. It's one thing to push past a roadblock, but it's another thing to try to push that roadblock when you're no longer encouraged to do so. So the goal is to remain encouraged. And in order to do that, you have to plan. Last thing, as far as the writing goes, you want to commit to the process. It takes commitment and discipline to see a project such as this one through. Establish deadlines and see them through. How do you do this? How I do this is, one, I have a writing space in my house. So before I was able or afforded, the home that had enough room that provided the space for me to mentally get in the zone, I spent all my time at Barnes & Noble. My first 2 books were written at Barnes & Noble. I needed to be in the presence of books, fresh, crisp books, best-selling books. I had to be around people and just being in that environment where progress was being made. And for me, Barnes & Noble was where that was just the spot for me. Now, granted, since I have moved, my space has expanded. I have my office now. And my office is one side an office and one side is my spirit room where I have my altars and kind of my Zen place. And so what I've done is created a space in my Zen room that is allotted just for writing. And what I do is I'll light my candles. I will burn my incense if I feel like burning incense. I will open up my window and listen to the birds chirp if it's in the morning. I'll water my plants. I'll speak to my plants. I'll do whatever it is that I need to do to get myself in the zone of writing. And once I figured out what that was, I made it a constant thing in my life. Not only did I find my writing space, but I created a writing schedule based on my existing schedule. I was busy. When I first started writing, I didn't have time to do this. I was raising a 3-year-old at the age of 19, 20, trying to figure out how I was going to finish school, run my businesses, run a nonprofit at that time, and write books, and raise the 3-year-old by myself. I ain't have time to do none of this, but I made the time and I committed to that time. So I created a schedule. And at the time when I first got started, it was really just getting up 2 hours earlier than I normally would for work. So I started getting up around 5 o'clock. Then I pushed that up to 4 o'clock because I found that uninterrupted time to myself allowed me to be my most creative. And I didn't have to feel like I was forced to write a bunch of hoopla or feeling like when I read over my material, it felt forced. No, I created the space and I created the constant time to work on my work on my writing. And I made that a consistent part of my process. I committed completely. And I do that for every book. So whenever I'm starting a new book, I put myself on a schedule. I identify when I want my book to be done. And then I make the plans for it. I create the framework and the blueprint. And from there, I set aside the time that I'm going to need every day to work on this project and the space I need to be in to make it happen. So you want to commit to the process. You want to commit like you would commit to a new diet. You want to commit as if you would commit to a new promise that you've made your spouse, or your significant other. You told your man you're going to start showing up and being more supportive. Well, you need to start showing up and being more supportive in your process of writing your book. And if that means you have to step away from other people and other responsibilities for the time period that you're writing your book, then fine. And that's why I say you want to be clear about when you want to be done too. You don't want to just idly be writing. When I tell clients that they need to set aside 30 minutes or an hour a day to do some writing, it seems like so much work because they're not thinking about, okay, I got to be done by this date. They're just thinking, okay, so you mean to tell me for the next however long, I'm going to have to get up at 4 o'clock. So now I got to just start getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning. Like, that's draining. You think about it and it sounds draining. But when you think about, okay, it's only until the end of August because I'm going to be done by then. By that time, you can just train your brain to know that this is only temporary. It doesn't have to feel like you're making a life change. You're just making the changes that are necessary to fulfill what you need to fulfill until it's done. So you want to prepare your story by being very clear about the impact you want your writing to make. You do that through identifying your message, knowing your why, planning for it, and committing to the process. The second step to preparing your story for print is getting familiar with your publishing options and making a decision. You have to make a decision. You have to know what your options are. In order to do that, first you want to do your research. You need to learn the industry, study those authors who are where you desire to be, and find out how the publishing really works. So this is probably one of the most asked questions that I have from tribe members is, like, what do I do when I'm done? Or I'm almost done and I don't know what to do next. Can you give me some tips? Can you give me some pointers? Well, this is your tips and your pointers. These are your tips and pointers. Do your research. As with any new venture, you want to be in the know, or at least on your way to knowing exactly what goes down in this particular industry. If you're not book savvy, if you don't read often, or you're not in the literary industry or connected to anyone in it, it can seem like a whole foreign, a foreign language. It can seem like a foreign, just strategies that you just don't know about. And it can become overwhelming. But as you read, you'll find that it's much easier than it seems when you start to actually do your research. And I wanted to just share this quote because this is one of my favorite quotes, and it's by African author Wale Soyinka. He says, "I believe that the best learning process of any kind of craft is to just look at the work of others. And I literally hold those words to be so true. And I do it for every new thing that I embark on. I always look at the work of others. And when I say look at the work of others, it's not to glamorize or to view them as, oh, they got it all together. And I don't know what I'm going to do because they got it all together and I don't. No, that's not why you're going to be looking at that. You're going to look at other people's work so that you can study what they've done right, what they did wrong, and how to move forward. That's what you want to do when you study and you research. You want to learn that industry. Okay? So, the next thing you want to do is identify your approach. Figure out which publishing option is best for you, your particular genre, and your individual goals for your book. Everybody's goals are not the same, which means that everybody's approach is not going to be the same. I have clients who come to me and they say, Nia, I really want my book to be a bestseller. Like, I want to get on the New York Times best-selling list. That's my ultimate goal. Okay. Well, I'm not going to get too much about going too much about what it takes to get on the New York Times bestsellers list. It's a whole lot more work than what people think. And when you are a self-published author, the chances of that are much, I'm not going to say anything to discourage. I won't say that this much lower. I'm just going to say you have to work twice, maybe 3 times as hard as someone who signed to a traditional publisher to make the New York Times bestsellers list. But you can easily make the Amazon's bestsellers list. You can make, Essence and Ebony Magazine's bestsellers, or, any type of local or, other brands that are not as esteemed as the New York Times or as major literary award-winning writers and companies and such like that. You want to identify your approach, though. So there are 3 ways, three of the main ways that you can publish your book. You can either self-publish, you can partner publish, or you can sign with a traditional publishing company. So what I'm going to do for a minute is read a little bit from my book, Write the Book, Sis. I'm going to read the sections that talk primarily to the publishing companies or the publishing options, because I want you all to be able to take away different options so that you can be able to make a clear-cut decision on what approach you want to take. So with traditional publishing has been around since the beginning of time. It's no secret. Traditional publishing companies have a history of vetting out writers as potential authors, signing them to contracts that state that they are committed to authoring a set number of books in a set number of years. Oftentimes, these traditional publishing companies offer authors in advance compensation once they have written the book, and then they most times take full ownership of the author's written material. They copyright it in the company's name, and for the most part, they decide on the outcome of that author's book. Some traditional publishing companies may have in the contracts that you sign that they will set you up on a book tour, take care of all means of production for the book. They will help you get on platforms to speak and share your book with the world, and so on and so on. There are other traditional publishing companies that will do nothing more than post about your book the week of its release. Considering the times that we're in where social media presences are what drive the nation, traditional publishing companies have definitely gotten lazy when it comes to putting in the legwork of helping their authors gain the visibility they often deserve. In a nutshell, traditional publishing is not necessary because the work that used to be highly esteemed from traditional publishing companies is not necessarily the case anymore. Self-publishing has become such a widely received phenomenon over the last couple of years that it's easier to just self-publish your book. So let me tell you a little bit about self-publishing. Self-publishing means that instead of sending out query letters Instead of reaching out to all of these traditional publishing companies or trying to secure you an agent to pitch your material to a publishing company in hopes that they like it enough to pick it up, put their money behind it, and make you a worldwide, best-selling author. The self-publishing industry allows you to do all of that for yourself and still make the returns. So the thing is, when you decide that you want to get signed or, be vetted by a traditional publisher, it's just like the music industry. We have artists every day who want to get signed. So it's like you're vetting out, Simon and Schuster and Kensington Publishing Books and all of these major traditional publishing companies. Is just like, rappers and singers trying to get Jay-Z and Beyonce to listen to their music or to get signed to their labels. Not that it's impossible, but it's a lot of work. And instead of putting all of that energy into someone approving of your artistic contribution or your story, you can put that same energy, time, and effort into yourself. And either you can do it yourself as a self-published author, which means you have to learn the industry, learn what it takes to self-publish, put the money aside that it's going to take to do what you need to do to self-publish, and then actually execute the mission. That's self-publishing. Partner publishing is where you would hire someone like me. And there are other companies who do partner publishing. Oftentimes, they don't really advertise it as partnership. It's more so they'll advertise it as, hey, you want your book done, you can come to our publishing company and we'll publish it for you. You just got to pay us to do it. That's pretty much the same thing, but they just market it in a sense where it's not very inviting. But with partner publishing, that is something that I offer. Partner publishing is a service where someone who does not want to deal with the querying and the reaching out consistently and dealing with the mental and emotional stress of trying to get a traditional publisher, but they also don't have the time or the energy, or they just really don't want to have to learn the self-publishing industry. They'll hire someone like me who is fluent, skilled, and has years of experience as a self-publisher to actually produce the book for them. So whenever you reach out to me for partner publishing services, basically what that says is you want me to handle everything that it would take to get your book done. I will be your project manager, your book's project manager, and I will help you to produce your book. And so those are your options: your self-publishing, partner publishing, and traditional publishing. It's your job to identify your approach. You have to make the decision of which route you're going to go. And until you really decide on which route you want to go, you might want to just wait with your project. But you don't want to kind of bounce around from, okay, I might self-publish, I might partner publish, or I might see if somebody will sign me. Like, decide on what works, what's going to work for you, what you're committed to doing, and then move forward. The third thing you want to do as it pertains to publishing, you need to know the costs. You want to find out what the investment is to get your book in your hand based on the approach you choose. And when I say investments, it's not just money. Investments can be time, energy, money, and or all three. And in most cases, it is all three. So you want to know what the costs are, and you want to know, is it something that you can do? So for example, you can self-publish a book for $0. Literally, you can self-publish a book with no money. You can do it easily by writing your book and not hiring an editor. You can create your own book cover if you know how, and if you don't, you can figure it out. You can get you a free ISBN number on Amazon's CreateSpace. You can upload your book overnight and become an author tomorrow for $0. But you have to understand that not investing any of that time, energy, or money into that project, it comes with consequences. It comes with results that may not be what you're expecting. And you might find that you will struggle to sell your books if you do not invest some type of way into your book. So partner publishing, when it comes to my particular services, partner publishing includes your editing. It includes your graphic design. It includes your printing of your book. It includes the business side of your book. It includes securing your ISBN number, which is your social security number for your book. It includes getting your copyright registered. It includes getting your website set up. It includes getting your pre-orders done. It includes your marketing, your early distribution. It includes your entire launch campaign. It includes you getting your first book signing. And if you need help or want assistance with having a book tour set up for you, it includes literally everything that a traditional publisher would give you if you were signed, but you're working with someone who is experienced in the self-publishing industry of it. Then you have traditional publishing. The cost at traditional publishing, you don't have to pay traditional publishers to take on your book. However, you're going to have to pay a high cost of emotional and mental labor and sometimes instability. So it's just a matter of what are you willing to invest and is it worth it? Are you willing to pay $0 and just go self-publish it on your own without paying anybody to help you do anything and risk or run the risk of never selling books or not having a quality material that people would want to buy? Or do you want to take the risk of signing on to a traditional publisher, but before you're signed, you're going to get millions, not millions, let me not be dramatic, but you'll get, tens and 20s. I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, whatever. You'll get several rejection letters before you get that one yes. Do you want to go through that? Do you want to spend years at a time trying to get this one book picked up? Do you want countless agents to say that they can't work with you because you're not represented by someone that they acknowledge? Do you want to deal with not ever getting responses from traditional publishers or editors from traditional publishing houses sending you your work back saying that this is not what they're looking for? Do you want to spend the time, the energy, and the emotional labor of trying to find someone that is going to okay or approve of what you put your heart and soul into? That's the risk, or that's the cost that you would take, or the cost that you would pay with a traditional publisher. And then on top of that, you say if you did get signed and a traditional publisher did want to pick up your work and they did want to push it and they did want to make you an author with them and they wanted you to sign a contract and all of that, you may have to wait another year or two to even have your book released. I have talked to authors who have signed with major companies, or not even major publishing companies, but even like smaller traditional houses, where they pitched their book and was accepted in 2015, and they're just now releasing their books in 2018 because they had to wait in line for all of these other authors to come before them. So you want to know the cost. You want to find out what is the investment to get your book in your hand based on the approach you choose, and you want to invest your time, energy, or money, or all three, but you want to find out which one works for you. Okay? Which one works for you? The last thing you want to do, you want to be honest with yourself. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. You want to try your best to do it right the first time around. And you want to ask yourself, can you really manage such a task as publishing your book? Can you handle the project management of self-publishing? So the thing with self-publishing is If you want to do it and you want to do it right the first time so you don't have to do it again, you want to make sure that you are disciplined and diligent enough to see the entire project through. So now I'm going to give y'all a personal story. My very first book, Young Black Fearless, if you haven't heard my story before, some of you all come on my live, so you might know a little information about it. But Young Black Fearless, I published that in 2015. I was 21 years old. I wrote and published it in 10 days. Now, to a lot of people, it's like, oh my gosh, you did that 10 days? What? Yes. And yeah, it's nice to say that I did that in 10 days, but I paid for it. I paid for it after the fact, because having rushed that book the way that I did, I made countless mistakes, which required me to literally go back and do my entire book over. I didn't have to write the content over, but I had to basically republish and relaunch my book because I sped through it the first time around. And the reason I did that was because I had a speaking engagement. I had a speaking engagement at New York University. I was about to speak in front of hundreds of college activists, and they were looking at me to give them the marching orders on how to proceed in their individual and respective fields when it came to being an activist as a millennial. And I was super excited, and I had to front the cost to get there. And I was like, listen, I got to make this money back. So my whole goal was to have a book in my hand by that day. Now, granted, I didn't have my book actually in my hand because I didn't have any money to print. I was in my junior year of college. I was broke. I had a baby to take care of. I didn't have no money to invest into printing my book. So what I did was I released my book in the ebook format. However, because I rushed through that process, I didn't do the adequate research I should have. I didn't understand a lot of the terminology, and not understanding that terminology really cost me, because there was one particular term that I was not clear on, but because I was in a rush, I just clicked yes and kept going, and learned later that what I clicked yes to was allowing my ebook to be copy and pasted. And of course, 3 to 6 months later, my homeboy hit me up, told me he was looking for some college books on this website. He was trying to find some free books he didn't have to pay for class. And he found my book, my entire manuscript, on a free ebook platform that had been copied and pasted. And that was like it was in between 3 to 6 months later after I had published my book. And I had to pay for that. I couldn't fight him. And that was another thing. I couldn't even fight the person who had the platform available to get free ebooks, because I didn't copyright my stuff either. So not only did I rush through the publishing process, allow my book to be copy and pasted, I also didn't even protect my work via copyright. So my book had been manipulated, and in some ways, my information and content was, if I had done it right, would have been copyright infringement, but I hadn't done it right. So you want to be honest with yourself. You want to make sure that this is something that you can actually take on and do it right. And if it's not something that you can take on and do right, you need to hire someone who can do it right. You want to understand, or figure out if you would benefit from being taken under the wing of someone like me, who has made many mistakes and offers a service so that you can avoid all the mistakes I made plus more. Or you want to ask yourself, can you deal with the emotional or mental labor of sending out query letters, dealing with rejection until you get that one yes? Be honest with yourself. Figure out which one is going to work for you. Self-publishing, partner publishing, or traditional publishing. All right. The next step of how you prepare for your book for print. You want to prepare by curating a solid marketing strategy to make sales post-print. So a lot of people think that writing the book is the hard part. Writing the book is not the hard part. Writing the book part is the easy part. Some people think publishing is the hard part. I think publishing is only the hard part if you don't do your research and you have not really learned from someone who's done it. What I have found to be the most challenging part of this entire process is the marketing. And it's challenging if you don't do it right the first time. So that's the thing. You really have to keep in mind that this entire process is going to be a trial, and you will make errors, but the goal is to make as minimal amount as you can and not the max amount. Yes, this is your first time, your first book in some cases. For those who have already printed and published books before, this may not be your first time, but if you're on this particular masterclass, then obviously you didn't do something right the first time, so you're trying to figure out how to do it right the second time around. Prepare by curating a solid marketing strategy to make sales post-print. How do you do this? One, you need to know your target audience. Be clear on who your book is for. You want to start small in recognizing who it can benefit and then build from there. If your book is marketed as for everybody, it will not sell. I'm going to say that one more time. If your book is marketed as for everybody, it won't sell. In other words, if I ask you, who is your book for? And you tell me, you know what, everybody can read my book because it's just talking about love and, you know, how to deal with relationships. So it's for everybody. No, it's not. It will not sell. When I say know your target audience, I mean really know exactly who you need to give this book to and who is best going to benefit from it. And an example of this, you can start as broad as you want, or you can start as small as you want. I say start broad and minimize it. Bring it all the way down to exactly who you are talking to. So say you're writing a book about self-love, how to love yourself and how to, be a better person in relationships based on how much love you have for yourself. That's your book concept, okay? So who do you want to talk to? Well, I'm a woman, so I'm speaking from the female perspective. So you know what? My book is for women. Okay, your book is not for women, sis. It's for women, but what kind of women are we talking about? Who are you talking to? What type of language are you using? What type of colloquialism are you using? Are you speaking like are you from the South? Are you from Georgia? You got a Southern accent, you using Southern slang that only Southern folk will really understand. Then if that's who you are and that is your delivery, then you might want to look at targeting your audience to women from the South or women with Southern experience, or women who have been exposed to Southern mentality. Are you talking to Black women? Are you talking to white women? Are you talking to Asian women? Are you talking to Latino women? Are you talking to Eastern Indian women? Are you talking to British women? Who are you talking to? Because everybody's not going to receive it. If you're a woman from the South and you're talking about self-love after having dealt with Southern men, you're not necessarily speaking to women who are from New York or Australia who have no clue the type of men that you deal with, or the type of relationships and the type of environmental factors and societal factors that contribute to why you're even dealing with the things that you're dealing with. Be clear. Clarity looks like my audience is Black women ages 16 to 46 who are from the South or have experience in the South or who are familiar with the South, who listen to Beyonce, who go to church on Sundays, and who have been in bad relationships and want to learn how to love themselves. That's your target audience. And I know it sounds like, dang, like I got to look for all of that. Yes, that's where you want to start. You want to start with all of that, all of those filters. You want to filter out everybody that it doesn't speak directly to. And then once you identify who that audience is that it speaks directly to, from there you can begin to expound. So maybe I don't want to just talk to Black women between the ages of 16 to 46 in the South who like Beyonce and go to church on Sundays. Maybe I can talk to Black and Latina women. Or maybe I can talk to all women who are ages 16 to 46 in the South, like Beyonce, go to church on Sundays. Because we all got something in common. And then on top of that, we all have dealt with men that made it hard for us to, or who have revealed to us that we got to start loving ourselves. Know your target audience. Know exactly who your book is for. Think about your book. Think about your story. Think about who relates to you. Who is your book for? So, for example, I'm working on my memoir that I'm releasing for my birthday in October. It'll be my first memoir for my quarter year. I'm turning 25. And so one of the significant experiences that I've had up until the age of 25 is I was a teen mom. But not only was I a teen mom, I was a teen mom who flipped all the stereotypes and defied all the odds and did a whole lot of stuff that my peers who were teen moms couldn't even think of doing. And that's my storyline. So I could market my book to teen moms, but I also know that the teen moms that are going to best receive are not going to be the ones who don't care about their children, who could care less about their future, who are wild and reckless and just want to do their own thing. Though that audience is not going to receive my book. My book is going to be best received by teen moms who want better for their lives, for their children. Teen moms who are striving to build businesses, build brands. Teen moms who want to make sure that their children get the best, education experience. I'm going to have to target it down to the kind of person that I am and then market to that particular person and build from there. Know your audience. Be very clear. Second thing, be strategic early on. Until you have a concrete marketing plan, it's best to hold off on overly excited announcements. It is hard to redeem yourself from bad marketing. You want to work smarter, not harder. So if you have been with me on this journey for a minute, you know my motto is work smarter, not harder. I don't believe in working myself to death. I believe in using my brain, figuring it out, and working really smart so that I don't have to work hard in the long run. With that, marketing, you want to be strategic early. What does that look like? That looks like if you are releasing your book is due to be in your hand by October 1st. It is June 11th. You have some months, a good 5, almost 4.5, 5 months until October. Do you want to start telling everybody you have a book now and just throwing it out there? Yeah, I got a book and, this is my title in July or in June when you might change your title closer to October. It may not be the same anymore. Things change on the journey to finishing your book. Titles change, page count changes, the direction of your book changes, your book cover will change, the interior of your book, the content can change. You want to be strategic early. You don't want to tell everyone about your book before it comes out. And when I say before it comes out, I mean far out before it comes out. So really you want to start your strategic marketing plan within 1 to 3 months of your book's release. But anytime past that 1 to 3 months, if you're in the 4 month, 5 month, 6 month, or next year realm, hold off. Don't be overly excited and start making random announcements that have no clear plan to them. And you start being taken for a joke. And okay, so I don't want anyone to feel offended by this because we all get excited and we always want to share what we're doing. But you got to be strategic about what you share because you will either be taken for a joke, things will change and you won't be able to deliver when you said you were going to deliver. You may find that you struggle with securing the funds that it's gonna take to really get your book out there. So now you're gonna be asking for money, or putting out, crowdfunding campaigns and such like that. And like I said, this is not for anyone who is doing this or who finds himself in these positions. This is not to knock you. These are the mistakes I made that cost me. I was taken for a joke for my second book because it took me too long to get it out, but I was talking about it like it was in my hand for months. And by the time it actually released, that was my second book. I don't even mention the name of it because the sales were so low and they were so bad. And it just did not come out the way that I wanted it to come because I did not have a plan. I didn't have a strategy. I was just mindlessly and aimlessly telling everybody about it, posting about it, pitching about it, but not actually having a solid, structured format for how I was going to release this book. So I didn't sell nothing. And I had to end up working harder, trying to redeem myself from the horrible marketing that I did. Don't go spreading the news about your book until you know the book is happening, one. And when I say know the book is happening, it means you actually got a deadline, you got the money, you got the resources, you got the people you need in place to make it happen, and you have the date that it's going to be in your hand for a fact. You also want to make sure that you have your next steps. So when you release your book or when you tell everybody that your book is coming out, okay, so what now? Hey, y'all, I got a book coming out in 6 months. I'm just letting y'all know. Okay, so what you want us to do about it? This is the time when you need to be building your email list. Okay, I got a good book coming out in 6 months. It ain't here yet, but y'all can join my email list so that when it comes, I can keep in touch with y'all and let y'all know so y'all can get the book. That's what I mean when I say strategy. What is your strategy? Are you just popping off and just letting everybody know you got something coming and you excited about it? Or are you strategically planning for people to spend their money with you and buy your book so that you can make back the investment that you put into the book and then start to see actual returns? And that goes into the next piece. Plan for your launch. Have a calendar in place to execute the entire project. Specifically, though, outline how you effectively market your book with objectives. What is your ultimate objective for this book launch? What are you trying to do? Or do you want to be a bestseller? So is your goal to sell out of your books as soon as your book releases? Is your goal to have sold all the books you ordered to get started by the first month? Is your objective to become an Amazon's bestseller? So this means I need to have this many downloads by the first week to hit that mark. Is your goal to just become someone who can start getting speaking engagements? So I just need my book to set me up to start getting speaking engagements. What are your objectives for the book? What is your vision for the book? What do you need to do in order to get the results that you're looking for your book? Have a calendar to do so. So another thing that I do with my clients, every client who's a partner publishing client, when we do marketing strategies, we lay out a 3-month or a 1-month marketing calendar. So it means every single day leading up to your book's release date, there's something you should be doing. Whether it's posting on social media, whether it's sending out an email to your email list, whether it is showing up to a specific event with your cards in hand, whether it is contacting a local bookstore to start setting up dates for book signings. Every day you're doing something. And that is your marketing plan. That's leading up to the launch of your book. The launch of your book can be as small as setting up a table at the local bookstore. It can be as large as having an entire event, inviting out hundreds of people to come and celebrate the launch of your book. But you want to identify, what does that launch look like? You could have an online launch, and that's a cheap way to do it. It's inexpensive, and if you have a large platform online, you can make that work. Create your launch and do an online launch. You could have you could set it up like a webinar and bring them off of social media, or you could celebrate it on social media. You're going live on Instagram or Facebook or Periscope at this time, and this is your launch day. And during this launch day, you can do your reading, read a few sections from your book. You can raffle off some of your books. You can send everybody to the link in your bio to purchase your books. You can have balloons in the background, eat you a slice of cake in front of the camera. You could put on an entire program if you want to. Whatever you want your launch to look like is cool. You can do it however you want to, but you want to have an actual plan, and you want to have an actual calendar full of events, dates, and happenings before the launch date. This is building the momentum for your book. This is a solid strategy so that you can make sales. It's not just to say I got a book and I want everybody to know I got a book. It's to make sales. You're trying to get people to purchase your book. And if you think about sales, if you think about when people are trying to sell you something, it's an entire experience. It's an experience before you spend your money with somebody. You don't just give your money to anybody just because they got something. It's something about them or something about their marketing technique or strategy that brought you to them or got you to the point where you're ready to open up your wallet for them. You had to do something or say something, or, it had to be some sort of feeling for you to feel moved enough to open up your pocketbook and pay for whatever this particular book is or whatever item they're selling. So you have to look at it the same way with your own book. You have to provide that experience. You have to provide that interaction, that encounter that is so dope or so fulfilling that this person has no choice but to spend money with you. And how do you do this? The last point, use your story. Don't leave money or opportunities on the table because you fail to incorporate the most important component of the book, which is you. And I say this with so much emphasis because when I was running the Black Authors Matter campaign, and I would have authors who would want me to, they paid their ad fee to have their book posted or their information for their book posted on the platform. Oftentimes, they would just send a book cover and a quick little, 2 or 3 sentences about the book that really wasn't about the book. I mean, it was about the book, but it was just so poorly described that they never got likes, comments, or sales. And that was part of the reason why I decided not to focus so much on Black Authors Matter as much as I wanted to focus on just the Literary Revolutionary brand, because my whole goal is to revolutionize. I don't want y'all to make mistakes, make silly mistakes at that. I don't want you to, especially when it comes to marketing, going in blind with no strategy. You're not going to make money. And I want to see y'all make money. I want to see y'all make money. I want to see y'all build indisputable brands. I want to see y'all start booking the stages you want to speak on, going around the country, facilitating the workshops you want to facilitate, telling your story, ending up on TV, talking about your story with reporters. If that's your goal, I want to see you make that happen. But oftentimes, authors leave out the most important aspect when promoting their book, and that's them. Don't nobody really care about your book. They care about you, to be honest. And this is particular when it comes to your story. If you're writing a memoir, an autobiography, a story, a book that is about your own experiences, if don't nobody know who you are, you better make them know who you are. And the way you do that is by sharing your story. Granted, you don't want to give them the whole book for free by telling all your business, but you have to come up with strategies to get people to feel for you. We don't buy everything, the biggest celebrities put out because we just really like the stuff. Oftentimes, we just buying it because it's them. And I'll use myself, for example, and I'll say, I don't know, let me think. I want to say Beyonce, but then that wouldn't be fair because I think everything she does is pretty dope. So it's usually worth it. But say for somebody who's material is not the best, but because it's them, I'm still going to support. You want to use your story as your leverage, okay? Use your story as the leverage that you need to amplify your sales. And you can do this, in a variety of mediums. You can do the social media thing. You can go live often. Talk about parts of your story, parts of your life. Talk about, going back to identifying what your message is. Speak on the message. Talk about the message, and while you're teaching on the messages, you infuse your storyline in it. So why should we listen to you? People ask me why should they listen to the Literary Revolutionary when it comes to writing books? I ain't no New York Times bestseller. I'm not, but you should listen to me because I've made quite a bit of sales. I've become my own bestseller in my own right, according to my own standards. I have won awards for my books. I have built an online presence and an online tribe where they trust me to teach them about this. And I teach from my mistakes. So you're never going to come on one of my lives or any of my masterclasses or any of my opportunities to speak to potential consumers without them learning a little bit about me. I use my story to my advantage, and you should too. Do not leave money or opportunities on the table because you fail to incorporate the most important part of your book, and that's you. All right. Let's go to the next piece. I'm done preaching, y'all, I think. So let's see. We got our writing down. We got the publishing piece down. We got the marketing strategy down. The key to building an indisputable brand as an entrepreneur is leveraging your story. The key to building an indisputable brand as an entrepreneur is leveraging your story. That's a quote by me, and I think it's powerful, so y'all better hold on to that. Hold on to it. Use that. Think about that. Meditate on that. Take a screenshot of the photo if you need to. The key to building an indisputable brand as an entrepreneur, and I say entrepreneur because if you rock with me, you know that there's a difference between author and entrepreneur. An author is someone who just writes a book and thinks it's going to sell itself. An entrepreneur is someone who writes the book and who goes after every opportunity to sell their books. And when you're an independent author, you need to be an entrepreneur because you don't have an entire publishing company to rally behind you and get you to what you're trying to do. It's you. Oftentimes it's you by yourself, unless you have the team or unless you have my team behind you rallying for you. But an entrepreneur, the key to building an indisputable brand as an entrepreneur is leveraging your story. Here's a recap. So the things we know that the three main components to preparing your story for print is writing, publishing, and marketing. And when it comes to writing, you have to identify your message, know your why, plan for your book, commit to the process. For the publishing piece, you need to research the industry, identify your approach, know the costs, and then be honest with yourself. And from the marketing standpoint, you need to know your audience, be strategic early on, plan for your launch, and then use your story. Now that I know what to expect, where do I start? So this might be a question that you have. And if it is, I'm going to go ahead and answer that question real quick. So what I have coming up, you all, is a 30-day group coaching session. So for everybody who is on here and who is able to stay and manage to see it all the way through, because we're done, I have a 30-day group coaching session. It starts on June 27th, which is a Wednesday, and ends on July 27th, which is a Friday. What does this group coaching session consist of? It consists of a live group masterclass, weekly group check-ins, access to a private Facebook group, one 20-minute phone call with me through that 30-day session, unlimited email support, and newfound sisterhood of other dope women who are writing and publishing books. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording. That is all for this masterclass if you are watching the replay.